Okay, perfect.
Did you just switch that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good.
So now it's open. Yeah. Again, this is the Hunt for Revenue October, how to predictably meet quota in Q4. My name is Jeff Grice. We appreciate you having you here with us today. This will be a fun and interactive and baseball themed webinar. So thank you for taking a few minutes out of your time to participate today in our webinar. Today we have a very special guest with us, Rick Janezic from StrikeZone Sales System. And Rick has helped B2B teams with record-setting performance with all kinds of different industries, from startups to Fortune 500 companies. And he's an absolute revenue ops rock star and sales effectiveness expert. And he's a lot of fun to be around. And he's headquartered in the Chicago area. And we're honored to have someone of Rick's caliber on the call with us. So welcome, Rick. Please give us a quick introduction to our audience.
Thanks for your very, very kind words, Jeff. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be with you all today. Briefly, StrikeZone is inspired by a baseball player named Ted Williams, who is the last person to hit over 400 about 80 years ago, if I remember my metrics correctly. He did that using a theme of only swinging at pitches that he knew that he could score with and hit well. And there's going to be an underlying tone to that theme as we go through our conversations today. So StrikeZone helps organizations from the vantage point of how do we help B2B companies and the owners, investors, and executives in those companies to significantly improve sales productivity, specifically top-line sales, EBITDA, and profitability. Some of the results that we've been able to achieve is 2 to 6x increases in sales and 3 to 7x increases in EBITDA. So we're hopeful that some of the remarks that we've got today are relevant to you. We'll talk through some of the math of the problem as well, which is, I think, an important area to step on, since you want to always take a look at what do I get for what do I spend from an economics perspective. So with that, back to you, Jeff. Thank you.
Great, Rick. Thank you very much for that introduction. Now, hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Grice. I'm a Senior Account Director with Veloxy, and my background is in technology, software, and sports. And prior to my time with Veloxy, I started my career working for the Detroit Pistons for 13 seasons. And I spent the last 10 working in the B2B technology space, most recently in B2B SaaS, where I'm now working. And I enjoy spending time when I'm not working, enjoying time with my family, and being somewhere near the water, as Kyle knows, especially in my new kayak. So Veloxy is a virtual assistant software that integrates with Salesforce, and it's helping sales leaders be more productive and have less administrative time with Salesforce, and also predictably make their number, which we'll talk about here shortly. So today's overview, we are looking at Q4 right now. We're in it, so there's no time to waste. There's actually fewer business days in Q4 than any other quarter. I believe we're at like 50 days or less, depending. So that's 50 days to make a difference and to make your number for the final quarter of this year. So we're going to look at ways to help you guys optimize your operations for simplicity, especially as it relates to your pipeline. So we want to help you create a predictable revenue model, and we're going to give you a game plan to how to have the best path forward during this short quarter, so you can predictably make your number in Q4. So why are we here? We're here because I'm not sure if you're experiencing this, but the sales leaders that we speak with say that they're looking for help in what I call the core four. 1 is focus, 2 is organization, 3 is speed, and 4 is consistency. So with regards to focus, I hear sales leaders tell me all the time they feel like they're being pulled in too many directions. So they feel like they have sales ADD oftentimes. And I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but a goldfish has an attention span of 5 seconds, which is approximately 2 seconds longer than what you'd get from a visitor visiting your website, or possibly someone that you're making a cold call to. So we want to help you with your focus. 2 is organization. How do I keep track of all that I have going on between my accounts, all the leads that I'm working or being handed off to, and all my opportunities? How do I keep all those balls that I'm juggling in the air organized so I can make my number? 3 is speed. Sales leaders are looking to go faster. They're focused on having more talk time, more relevant conversations so they can close more deals. And then the last piece is consistency. Everyone is looking to be more consistent in business, right? So, instead of going from one great quarter to a bad quarter or one good month to a bad month, how can you make sure that you have a consistent workflow, a streamlined workflow, so you can consistently make and exceed your number? So what are you going to get out of this webinar today? We are going to teach you a prioritization strategy. So we are going to talk about, what does a great account look like? Am I talking to the right person within that account? Am I talking to the right account at the right time and with the right information? You'll also receive some ideas on how to streamline your workflow. Again, things can get really complicated when you're using different tools in your tech stack. There's different people that you're working with across your organization. How do you streamline your workflow on a day-to-day basis? The third thing that you'll receive from this webinar is some strategy around email analytics. When is the best time to reach out to somebody? What day of the week? What time? How would you even know those kind of things? And how do you drive your engagement so you can book more meetings? And then the last thing, which I think is top of mind for just about every sales professional, is how do I get more meetings right now? So before we go any further, I wanted to launch this quick poll just to get some feedback from you guys in the audience. Would love to hear from you. So I'm going to launch a quick poll question here. You guys should be able to see it. If you could kindly vote, it'd be great. There are several different strategies we'll be talking about today, but which one would you like to hear about most? Prioritization as it relates to accounts, opportunities, and leads, email engagement and analytics, or how do I book more meetings? So I'll give you guys a few seconds to vote there. Again, there are several different strategies we can be talking about today. Would you like to hear about prioritization first, email engagement and analytics, or how to add more meetings to my calendar? And it looks like we have a jump ball here. I know we're baseball themed, but I'm going to use a basketball reference. Looks like half of the folks want to hear about prioritization, and the other half want to hear about how do I add more meetings, which actually coincidentally, I think they're hand in hand. So Rick, would you mind maybe speaking a little bit about that?
Sure, thank you, Jeff. So after it's all said and done, a sales professional only has 8 hours a day. The question is, what's the best possible use of that 8 hours, 10 hours, or 6 hours, whatever that your day looks like, where in the order of value, you know who to call, why to call, and how to best be prepared to be able to move that conversation forward, or contrarily, understand if that's a conversation that no longer makes sense, and that's somebody that gets pushed into next quarter or further down or taken out of your pipeline all over. Jeff, back to you.
Thank you very much, Rick. So let's talk about falling short of expectations. As Rick just alluded to, there's a difference between actual sales hours and productive sales hours. The reality is 57% of folks will miss quota. That's according to Salesforce's recent report on the state of sales. And 66% of sellers spend time not selling. So how do we flip the script on that so we can actually have more conversations, which will drive more opportunities and ultimately more deals? So Rick, would you mind giving me a little bit more color on the challenge of getting more value results out of the hours that sellers are actually working?
Sure, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, one of the challenges that I think every sales professional has is, what's my next best action? Of all of the opportunities and all of the activities that I can participate in, as soon as I finish with one, what's the next best action? That's a constant challenge for every sales professional. And until you've got a tool like what Jeff and the team at Veloxy have put together, that would take time to go and sort a list and take time, especially during the busy sales day, that you want to make sure that, especially in a short quarter with 50 days or fewer, depending upon how your organization is put together, you want to make sure that every minute of every day you use with the highest possible potential value back to you from a commission and quota perspective, and to the organization from a revenue and profitability perspective, and out to your clients. So that ability to focus on the most important thing is critical at every time, but especially during Q4. Jeff, back to you.
Thank you very much. So moving forward, how can we exceed our expectations as it relates to making our number? So I want to talk a minute now about how you can automate your prioritization from an account level, an opportunity level, and from a lead level with your workflow. How do you automate your sales and email analytics as well? So at Veloxy, we were problem-led development. So what does that mean? We went out and we seeked out feedback from the market, asking what some of their biggest challenges were with Salesforce, their workflow, and for making their revenue number in B2B space. So there are two main problems that we hear consistently here at Veloxy, and what we hear from sales leaders is two things. One, leaders tell us they're having an impossible time automating their Salesforce activity. Two, sales leaders say they're looking for a way to prioritize their accounts, their opportunities, and their leads, and have a must-do view, if you will, as soon as they kind of turn on their phones in the morning. So Rick was talking about prioritizing those things. You know, if it's Monday morning next week, who do I call and why do I call that person? And how can I have that happen automatically so I don't have to think about it, right, on Monday morning when maybe I'm a little foggy from the football game the night before. I know I certainly happened to me last weekend after the long Bills game on Sunday night. So we've developed an AI-driven virtual assistant software that integrates with Salesforce. And with Veloxy AI, reps can reach prospects from their mobile phones at the right time with the right information. And why is this important? It's important because buyers want to be sold that way. You know, they don't want someone that's just going to push product on them and pitch slap them all the time. They want to receive the information on their schedule, not the sellers. And then also, which we believe that sellers should be able to be excellent at any time, anywhere. Quick story, I was using the platform myself, and my daughter had a ballet recital that was about to go off, and this was the day before, so it was rehearsal day on a Friday, and it was going to be a very long rehearsal, a couple hours in a hot, stuffy theater. So I decided to wait outside in my car in the air conditioning, and I had my mobile phone with me, so I was able to use the Veloxy app, access all of my Salesforce information, and using the auto dialer through Veloxy, I made 22 phone calls. I reached 3 decision makers and booked a demo in an hour. So normally I wouldn't do that or be in a position to do that because I would have to be at an office somewhere or at home, you know, in front of my computer and a desktop, which certainly wasn't the case because I was out, you know, out in the field. But with Veloxy, I was able to take my work with me, and it went with me versus me going to it. If that makes sense. So there's a lot of different things the platform can do, and I'm kind of curious. I want to ask another poll question here because again, we want this to be interactive. I'm going to ask another question of you guys. If you guys could vote on it, it'd be great. And I'm just curious, when you think of your tech stack, how many pieces are in it? Is it 3 to 4? Is it 5 to 6? Or is it more than 6? When you think about how you reach out to prospects or customers, from CRM to data to maybe sales engagement tools, et cetera, how many different tools are in your tech stack? So yeah, 3 to 4. People are responding 3 to 4. I know on average it's probably 5 or more. So it can get a little cumbersome and clunky when it comes to all those things that are in your tech stack. So there's a way to lower cost and have a leaner tech stack with different platforms. And I guess, Rick, would you mind talking a little bit about the financial impact of being able to consolidate all the different tools, and if there's an option for that?
Sure, thanks, Jeff. I think one of the key challenges is to take a look at everything that you do and understand, am I really getting value for that? You hire a piece of technology to help you be more productive. If it isn't, that's wasted capital. That's capital that could be redeployed somewhere else. So in pulling apart your process and pulling apart your stack, it's important to really understand and critically value whether or not you're getting the value out of that particular investment in time, cost, updating, security, technology, really across the board. There's a carrying cost and a utilization cost that your chief financial officer, chief operating officer could probably give you down to the penny. And it's really important to be able to have the ability to understand and link the investment that you've made with the return that you get. And if you're not getting a return, it's highly advisable to take a look and say, is there a better way for us to achieve this? Maybe with not just a lower cost, but potentially with a leaner tech stack. The importance on the leaner tech stack is, again, from a cost perspective, from a complexity perspective, from an onboarding perspective, and from a utilization perspective. If you've got 5 different tools you need to learn how to drive, that can be a real challenge. If you've got a single tool or a leaner stack with fewer moving parts, onboarding is faster, utilization is faster, maintenance is lower, and from a technical perspective, you may actually have a lower security risk perspective using a leaner tech stack. Jeff, does that help, or is there other color that you'd like me to add?
Oh, that's very helpful. I think that makes sense, and less is more, especially when it comes to a tech stack, I think, for sellers. Because again, as we talked about at the beginning of this event, sellers are very distracted, right? And there's a lot coming at them, and they're juggling a lot of different things. So having to juggle back and forth between different tools, maybe spreadsheets, that can be clunky and non-productive. So I think absolutely, and especially from a financial standpoint, you can consolidate and standardize on just a couple of tools versus a handful. Makes a big difference in making your footprint smaller and giving you being positioned to maybe have a better cager moving forward. Another thing I want to talk about real quickly, folks, is how do you improve customer experience? So we know an omnichannel approach is necessary in today's selling environment, but having a tool where you can call and email and text and have everything automatically tracked and then get alerts and notifications on those activities is really important. Again, especially from the buyer's perspective, because again, they want to consume your content when it's convenient for them, not for you. And they also are looking for you to understand their pain points and their expectations to present solutions, which I think is really important, right? So again, they don't just want to pitch, they want you to be a problem solver for them and unearth problems they didn't even know they had. So I think having the right tools in place where you have a complete 360-degree view of your prospects and your clients and understanding what happened on every single touch point along that buyer's journey is very powerful. It can help you also add velocity to your sales cycle, and it's a win-win, I think, for both sides of the equation. We have time here for one more poll question, so I'll launch that right now. I'm curious, with the people attending today, just how much time do you spend every day manually logging activity into your Salesforce or your database? And is it 30 minutes to an hour? Is it 1 to 2 hours, or it's I don't even bother because it's just such a pain that I don't do it? and be honest here, it'd really help us out. A couple different responses here. So it looks like anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. So it's a big chunk of time, especially like we said, we're on the clock. We got 50 days or less here in Q4 remaining. The clock is ticking. So Rick, would you be able to give a little perspective on what that would mean if you'd be able to knock out some of the manual time involved with tracking some important sales activity and data, but if there was a way to automate that or streamline that, what impact that would have on a seller?
Sure, thank you, Jeff. So in doing the math, in essence, of the problem, which is one of the areas that we focus on when we do consulting with our clients, is to be able to pull apart and understand from a financial, from an operational level, and from a return level, what are we getting for what are we spending? Spending in time, spending in cost, spending in complexity. I built a brief model that if any of the attendees here today have an interest, no one wants to see a general model. Everybody wants to see their own model. We will provide up to 30 minutes of free consulting time on a conversation with you and the Veloxy team to understand what the potential financial implications can be back to your specific organization. I used an example organization assuming 25 sellers with another 5 sellers who would be part of the support organization. Assuming a fully burdened cost of $175,000, that's sales salaries, benefits, commissions, training, things of that nature. And then taking a look at what the impact before or with Veloxy or without Veloxy. The attractive piece, and this would be attractive to any CFO, any CEO, anybody in a COO role, it's about a 20x impact for what you spend on Veloxy versus what you get on Veloxy. That's a bold claim. And again, average numbers don't matter, your numbers do matter. So contact either Jeff or I at the conclusion of this if taking a look at the math of what that would be for your organization to understand if the investment in making a switch to a different tool set really makes sense for your organization. Jeff, does that cover it for you?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we covered prioritization, which leads to getting more meetings. We can talk about that in a second as well, but I also want to talk about email engagement analytics. So there's a lot to look at here on this slide, but I want to focus on three key things. One, with Veloxy, you know who opened your emails, but also when and where and on what device. So that's kind of important. Two, you know what day and what time of day someone opened your email, which is very important. Again, what day and what time of day. Again, this goes back to the buyer's journey, and this gives you clues on when are people actually engaging with the stuff that you're sending out, so you can focus more time in those areas. That's good for the buyers. And then three, I know it's hard to read here on the screen, but the bottom right box, if you can look down there, there's a green button. You probably can't see the number, but this particular email, this is an example, was opened 12 different times. So that's helpful. But the other thing that's helpful is, again, it shows you day, time, device, and location. So this particular instance, email was opened 12 times, great. But what's even more that goes beyond that, it shows me that it was open in 5 different states across the US. So now I have a clue of, okay, I'm getting traction with this within this organization. It's being socialized internally. And those are clues for me as the seller that I'm getting traction with the communication and the content that I'm sharing. So again, very rich and robust email analytics that can help you test out your content and your messaging, and also how much penetration you're getting, especially if you're working in enterprise or mid-market accounts. This is very, very important. Rick, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. From anybody who uses Gossip or A/B testing of either subject lines, times that emails are sent, the content, the personalization, the location of buttons or ornamentation within the email, having rich, real feedback on what the responsiveness from the organization is incredibly helpful from a productivity perspective. That's true of sellers. It's true of whether or not you've got SDRs on the front end of your process, customer service, anybody else who's part of the touch point. You want to understand, is what I'm using effective or not? And especially if you're doing an A/B test, does subject line 1 work better than subject line 2? Does sending it in the early morning or after hours work better than during the day? Is there a particular day of the week that works best? So in most organizations, you don't have this ability to really understand the linkage between your action and the customer's action. This gives you an amazing view and deep penetrating understanding about what is working, what isn't working, so you can optimize your messaging, your tools, and your behaviors to maximize impact with your clients.
Yes, very good. Thank you for that, Rick. So one last thing I would like to add to all of this, because I know how to book more meetings was top of mind for a lot of sellers as well that are on this event today. So in addition to the email engagement, obviously that can lead to more meetings. If you have a strong call to action, you have a good message that's resonating with your audience. So this would be a way for you to test that, like Rick mentioned, do an A/B testing with a platform like Veloxy. And also something that we haven't spoke much about today, but there's another piece within the platform that incorporates geointelligence. And how that's relevant is if you're out in the field at any point, or if you wanted to pull it up within the platform, you can do email-based campaigns based on geography, which is really powerful. So again, another way to stack your calendar. Maybe you're in one state and you're traveling and you're ahead of your travel, you send out an email blast the week before saying, I'm going to be in town on Thursday at 2 o'clock local. Are you available for coffee or for a catch up? Be a great way for you as a seller to stack your calendar to maximize your time. And then you can also pull in net new leads too through the Biloxi platform as well in terms of accounts or leads. And there's a lot of different things available through that. But the geo-intelligence and the email engagement, I think, are two ways to really drive meetings. Anything else that you see, Rick?
Yeah, Jeff, I can bring up one other point. I think this is an extremely powerful tool, and depending upon what your partner ecosystem looks like, if you have a blended channel, a combination of direct and distribution, or some kind of collaborative arrangement with others that are part of your selling or extended selling framework, being able to recommend or advise your partners as to whether or not they've got depth in those areas or what their intelligence is in those areas. And if there's somebody that's an extended part of your organization that is on the ground and can go meet with other people, and you can preload them with who they should talk to, in which order that's closest in proximity to them, and that you've gotten responsiveness to understand from an email engagement perspective who's more ready, who's more likely than others, that's incredibly powerful. Jeff, does that help?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully more and more things will start opening up across the country moving forward. So I know we're coming up on time here quickly, so let's wrap this up. So what's next? We would like to offer all the attendees today an opportunity to start a proof of value. So if you want to do that, you can find us Biloxi in the App Store, whether it's the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. It's a free download, so check that out on your mobile phones. Start playing with it right now. A lot of our users have 125 or more selling hours available to them using the Biloxi platform. They increase their funnel size 2 to 3x, and massive, massive revenue growth with a tool like Biloxi. And I'll say typically after seeing information like this, there's typically folks fall into one of three categories, right? One is, Jeff, you could just stop talking after you mentioned the virtual assistant. I need that back in Q3, so sign me up now. Two is, this isn't for me. I've already got 3 or 4 tools that are really getting it done for me, and I'm already running at a really good run rate, so I'm good right now. The third person said, this is interesting, but I have some more questions. So if that's you, what I'd like to offer is, I know we were on baseball, but I'm going to pivot to the football for a second. I'd like to offer you a 2-minute drill. And what I mean by that is, if this is interesting and you have some more questions, I'd be willing to have a discussion with you or anyone from the Biloxi team. And my guarantee to you is that I won't talk more than 2 minutes at a time. I'm here to listen and understand your problems, and we'll see if we can help. But if this is a high priority matter for you, and this is something you want to address moving forward, please reach out to myself or anyone at Biloxi. So I'll send out my email here in the chat. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to please ask them now while we still have a minute or two.
Jeff, we should have some Jeopardy music playing in the background.
Absolutely. Anyone out there have any questions on prioritization or email analytics, setting more meetings, anything we talked about today? All right, folks, I guess this was an easy crowd. We'll get this out to everyone. We really appreciate your time and for joining us. And again, good luck as you strive to hit your revenue October number. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.